Okay, so we're on Unit 6, the Americas pre and post contact. We're going to look at 3 images. This is the frontispiece of the Codex Mendoza. It's circa 1541 or 1542. So the medium is pigment on paper, and the Viceroy of New Spain, Antonio de Mendoza, would be the patron. The artist would have been indigenous. And this was commissioned basically to record information about the Aztec Empire. The Codex itself is kind of like a book that contained information about the lords of Tlaxcala, and it paid tribute to the Aztecs and accounted for their life from year to year. As I said before, the artist would have been indigenous, and the images were often annotated in Spanish by a priest that spoke the ethnical language of the Aztecs. Viceroy Mendoza had every intention to send the Codex back to Spain to King Charles V, but it never made it to Spain. It actually was acquired by French pirates, and it ended up in France. So in France, it was acquired by André Thevet. He was a cosmographer for the King Henry II. And if you see up here, he actually adds his name in several of these pages. The Codex is a wealth of information about the Aztecs. So it's kind of like a documentary. It's telling of the Aztec capital, Tlaxcala. It's was established in the middle of a lake in Texcoco in the Valley of Mexico in 1325. So basically, this is a schematic diagram of Tenochtitlan, in which was the city was divided into 4 parts, and it was actually the city was made on canals. So the 4 parts were also intended to mirror the organization of the universe: north, south, east, and west. So that's why this is set up this way. So a little bit more information about the imagery on the Codex, and this would have been the front of the Codex. So according to Aztec myth, they had a patron deity. It was a hummingbird that told the Aztec ancestors to leave their ancestral home of Aztlan and look for a place where they saw an eagle on top of a cactus growing from a rock. He informed them that when they saw the sign, they should settle there and build their city. So they observed this sign in the middle of Lake Texcoco, and they established their capital on this island in the lake. So this was actually like an island in the middle of the lake. And that's where this particular imagery is coming from. The cactus upon which the eagle rests is also symbolizes the place of Tlaxcala. The cactus is a nopal, which means it's like a prickly pear cactus. The cactus goes from a stone, and when paired together, they connote a place of a prickly pear cactus. And this is actually on Mexican's flag. It displays an eagle on top of a cactus growing from a stone as well. So it relates to the myth origins of the Mexican capital. There's other figures and symbols on the front piece that aids us into understanding the city's foundation and early history. So below the cactus and stone in the middle of the drawing is a war shield that indicates the Mexican did not settle peacefully in the Valley of Mexico. The simple structure above the eagle likely symbolizes a temple, possibly an early phase of the Temple Mayor, which we're going to look at next, or Aztec's main temple that was located at the heart of the city. To the right of the eagle is a simplified skull rack. It's another structure found near the Temple Mayor, and there's different kinds of plants, including maize or corn. There's a dot on the city's 4 quadrants, and there's no doubt that it's alluding to the agricultural fertility associated with the city. There are 10 men that are also depicted in the 4 quadrants, and they're wearing white garments and displaying like top knots on their heads. The figures are the men who led the Aztecs to the island location. Their name glyphs are attached to them in a manner typical of pre-conquest manuscripts. So there's a thin black line connect to a symbol that denotes their name. One man's different than the rest and is seated to the left of the eagle. He has like gray skin right here. And he has a different hairstyle and he has a red mark around his ear. These traits basically identify him as a priest because he let blood from his ear as an offering to the deities, and ash covers his skin. So that was like a big thing, is this bloodletting is a part of a lot of these indigenous cultures. So surrounding the entire page are year glyphs, and beginning on the upper left with the date 2 house 1325 and finishing counterclockwise with the date 13 reed. There are a total of 51 year glyphs. 1 year is marked the 2 reed, which occurred 26 years after Tekuntilian's establishment, and the reed had a cord wound around it and a fire drill appears above it. These symbols note that the year 2 reed was the first year of a new 52-year cycle, the time during which new fire was drilled to begin the new cycle and signal the completion of the previous 52-year cycle. And finally, below the schematic diagram of the city are 2 scenes of the military conquest. The artist emphasizes the military power of the Aztecs by showing 2 soldiers in hierarchic scale. They physically tower over 2 men they defeat. And the Aztec warriors are also identified by their shields, identical to the ones above that is associated with Tekuntilian. The defeated men come from 2 different locations. One is identified with place glyphs as Cocacan and Tiuca, and they're both located in Lake Texcoco. In this case, burning temples paired with the specific hills. Note that these 2 cultures were defeated. So the second image that we're going to look at is Temper Mayor, and it's the main Aztec temple, and this is a stone temple. Also volcanic stone. So we're going to look at several different images inside this temple. So we're going to look at the Kolokoi stone, the jadeite, which is an Olmec style mask, the calendar stone, which is made out of basalt, and this is all located in Mexico City, or Tenochtitlan, which is where the codex originated from, the previous image that we looked at. This is Aztec, 1375 to 1520 CE. So the function were 2 temples that were on a pyramid. The north was dedicated to Tolek, which is the god of rain or agriculture, and the south was dedicated to, I'm going to butcher the name, Huitzilopochtli, and that was the god of sun and war. Let's just go with the god of sun and war. There were a lot of sacrifices that were made at this temple, and the Aztecs were often known for their aggressive religions. So, and this included the bloodletting, which I was talking about with the codex, and they really have like horrifying deities. So I'm gonna start with this particular stone. It's actually depicting the goddess Kolokoi, or better known as Bells Her Cheeks, and she was the sister of Mexico's patron god, Hummingbird Left, who basically killed her sister when she attempted to kill their mother. So this would have like sat, let me see it. Here it is, at the base of the temple. Okay, so the story behind this is apparently the mother snakes her skirt, became pregnant one day from a piece of down that entered her skirt. So her daughter, Koltokeu, became angry when she heard that her mother was pregnant. And together with her 400 brothers, they attacked her mother. And at the moment of attack, Huitzilopochtli, or Hummingbird Left, emerged, fully clothed and armed, and she was there to defend her mother on the mountain called Snake Mountain. And eventually, Hummingbird Left defeated her sister and beheaded her and threw her body down the mountain, at which point her body broke apart. And this is, this monolith portrays the moment in the myth where she threw her body off the mountain. And it's placed at the bottom of the temple, symbolically, so to be mindful of this myth that had happened. And you can see that it shows like her broken body parts. So here's the head that had been removed from the body, and the arms and the legs as well. And you can kind of start seeing that the body is like shattered. It truly looks like the stone had been thrown off the top of the temple. So the temple was approximately 90 feet high, and it was covered in stucco. And there were these two grand staircases that accessed the twin temples, and they were dedicated to the two deities. And the deity of water and rain was associated with agriculture, fertility, and Hummingbird Left was the patron deity of Mexico, and she was associated with warfare, fire, and sun. And paired together on the top of the temple, these two deities symbolized Mexico's concept of burnt water, which basically meant warfare. So this was the primary way in which Mexico acquired the power and wealth. A lot of aggression in this culture. So in the center of the Histopal temple, or Hummingbird Left, this temple up here, there was a sacrificial stone. And the standard bearer figures decorated the staircase. And they likely held banners and feathers, and serpents adorned the base of the temple. And the two undulating serpents flanked the stairs that led to the base of Temple Mayor as well. And the most famous part of this temple is the Chocohacque monolith stone. And then on the Telok temple, at the top, there was a sculpture of a male figure on his back, painted in blue and red. So this, like the Parthenon, would have been painted. The figure holds a vessel on his abdomen, likely receiving offerings. So this type of sculpture is called a cockmule, and it's older than the Mexico. It was associated with the rain god. So, the bowl would have been collecting the rain. At the base, there would have been two sculptures that were frogs, and their heads were arched upward. This is known as the altar of the frogs, and the croaking frogs were thought to herald the coming of the rainy season. So that's why they're connected to that side of the temple. This is the Aztec calendar stone. Just depicts a way that they were documenting the days. So they had a calendar. I think we're probably mostly familiar with the Mayan calendar, but the Aztecs had one as well. So this is the Olpec mask, and this would have actually been found inside the temple as an offering. And some of the offerings that were in the temple related to water, like coral and shells and crocodile skeletons and vessels, and other deposits were related to warfare and sacrifice. Some items like human skull masks, tongues and nose blades, and sacrificial knives. And many of these offerings contain objects from faraway places. And this one, for instance, they buried an Olmec mask that was made of jadeite, and this was from a northeast city. And the Olmec mask was made over 1,000 years prior to this development of the temple, and it basically suggests that Mexico found it precious and perhaps historically significant.